This is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast, and oh boy, has it been a whirlwind of emotions to get the month of December started. The NHL is officially 1/3 of the way through the season, and luckily the Utah Mammoth are still right in the race here, but there were some bumps. I am glad November is behind us. Onward to December. We got a lot to talk about. I am your host, Brad. We got Clean Hits. Trent here as well. Trent, you have a good Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving. I didn't have to travel, so it was awesome.
Yes.
Got to stay local, and that's what counts. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was great to sit down with my American family and enjoy our American turkey on American Thanksgiving, and not give one single thought to the nation of Canada. Clean Hits Corey, really, the entire time. How about you?
Yeah, it was great. Lots of friends and family in town, and always is a whirlwind. And the NHL may have potentially made the worst day after Thanksgiving schedule I've ever seen in my entire life. There was a game at 10 a.m. our time, 12 p.m., I believe. One other one that may have been like, actually, it may have been like 10, 11, 12:30, and then every single other game outside of the Mammoth game was on at 5 p.m. and then the one lone late game. So if you wanted to enjoy hockey and multiple games at once, you really only had one time slot to do it. It's truly like mind-bending how bad NHL scheduling is. I cannot get over it. Year after year, they just manage to fumble some of the best opportunities they have. Do you know what day the Winter Classic is on today or this year?
Huh? I'm not going to watch it. I have no idea.
I mean, you know what day it normally is on, right?
Day after Christmas or New Year's Day?
It has always been the day or New Year's Day. And for some reason last year they just completely changed it. And what is it this year?
See, I normally don't care at all because there's something much, much, much more important going on than the Winter
I
Classic.
agree.
It's the World Junior Championship. So that's where I'm tuned in. I'm laser focused on the World Juniors. I don't care about the outdoor classic or whatever. I'm good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I like kind of having it on in the background, but the thing is, it's supposed to be on January 1st. It's a tradition. January 2nd this year. Last year was the same thing. It's just like, why touch it? Why? Well, it's like the one big event mid-season thing you get, and you're fiddling with it. It's. I don't want to. I mean, I could do this all day, but.
Yeah, the thing is, like, January 2nd, by the way, is a Friday, so I'll be at work. I think a lot of America will be at work that Friday.
Yes.
You'll be off on the 1st, but on a Friday, I'll be at work. I'm not watching that. Yeah.
Oh, well. Four Nations was great, though. At least they did that. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. So the Mammoth are coming off an absolute spanking of the Anaheim Ducks, 7-0. Boy, does it feel good. Boy, does Liam O'Brien feel like a must start every time this team maybe loses 2 to 3 games in a row, because every time he's in the roster, at least that first game back, they seem to perform really, really well. Unfortunately, this came after maybe the worst 2 losses we have experienced as a Mammoth fan base, and
for sure,
definitely one of the worst losses I can remember as a Coyotes fan, and that being the 1-0 loss against St. Louis, followed by a 6-3 loss against the Sharks. That shockingly, that box score doesn't seem as bad as the game actually was, considering the Sharks were up 2-0 within seconds, and the team looked pretty much lifeless outside of Lawson Krause and his line, and especially coming off of that awful loss to St. Louis, and kind
It
of
was horrible.
a bit more of a competitive loss against Dallas. And with everything going on internally with the team, those two losses just absolutely stung. And I think the theme of this episode is feels like the team is at crossroads, and that spike in that crossroad is today as the team pulls up into Vancouver to take on the Canucks, coming off a big 7-0 win and coming off a bad 2-3 losses.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a watershed moment for the club. What they did against St. Louis was unbelievable. Division rival, clinging to possession of a wild card spot, a St. Louis team that's down in the dumps, losing a ton of hockey, rumors swirling galore that they're trying to sell everything that isn't bolted down. St. Louis comes out and gives a crappy performance. They were pretty listless themselves. St. Louis was about as soft a team that the Mammoth have played this year in terms of the effectiveness of the other team on the ice. And the Mammoth found a way to lose spectacularly in completely listless, lifeless fashion. It was a real struggle to watch, hard to keep emotions in check. At least for us fans who are boiling over, though the Mammoth didn't seem to have any problem keeping their emotions in check. They didn't bring them to the game from what we could see at home watching on the couch. I think there are really good AHL teams that would have beat the Mammoth that night because St. Louis didn't look much better than a really good AHL team that night. So pretty hard to watch. Then we think, okay, the team better respond here against the Sharks, a tougher opponent, no doubt about it. But at least if we can see the effort level we saw against the Dallas Stars, which I think was a very credible loss where the energy level was high and the team was playing very, very well against the Stars and lost anyway. If we can at least see that against the Sharks, we'll be good. But they got spanked. They weren't in it. They were out of it within the first couple minutes. They never got back in it, not even close. To follow up the St. Louis game with that Sharks game was incredible. We started hearing rumors flying, Frank Saravalli saying Andre Tourney's seat is getting warm. I believe Saravalli said he was at 2 out of 3 in terms of hot seat rating. I'm not sure where Frank comes up with a 3 scale on that thing, but he was apparently, according to Frank Saravalli, somebody who probably should have been a little bit nervous around that point, justifiably so, I think. And the fan base was in a bit of a panic. He saw a lot of negativity online. I think a lot of it justifiable. And then they come in to face Anaheim, who's a real tough team, who's been on fire this year, playing really well. And suddenly everything changes. And now we've seen kind of a good effort against the Stars, a putrid effort against the Blues, and then a horrible response against the Sharks. And then suddenly the biggest win margin of Mammoth history, 7-0 spanking of a super tough Western Conference team against the Ducks. So now we're rolling into Vancouver, who, like the Blues, has been struggling. Like the Blues is the center of just about all these hockey rumors. Nothing is going right for the Canucks. The coaching change doesn't seem to have helped. The JT Miller trade was a disaster. Elias Peterson is playing better, but he's dealing with personal tragedy right now.
Yeah.
That team is in shambles. And enter the Mammoth. What are they going to do? Are they going to play down to the level of their competition again, like they did against St. Louis, break all of our hearts again, and put Bear right back on that hot seat? Are they going to rise to the occasion and handle those Canucks in the way that we all know that they ought to? It's going to be very, very, very telling about what happens. And then the consistency of the team's ability to twist the knife against the Calgary Flames. I mean, for me, anything less than 4 points in the next 2 games is hugely disappointing. Even 3 is not really okay. They have a lot to make up for in those games that they played in the last week that I'm not going to be satisfied.
The last month.
Yep. November, they had the worst points percentage of any team in the NHL. And if you want to have a prayer at making those playoffs, you can't walk out of Vancouver and Calgary without winning both games. So to your point, Brad, I think it is a crossroads. I think this is a watershed moment. We're going to be seeing which side of the aisle this team's going to be, playoff contender or bubble pretender.
Yep, I would have to agree. And they got that benchmark of being in a playoff spot on Thanksgiving. But man, the West is just so tightly packed that can be gone in an instant. I believe Chicago would have jumped us by now.
Yeah, it depends on if you go by points percentage or total points, games in hand. It's kind of hard to track midseason rankings.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is unfortunate. But I think, one thing that I did tweet out today, I think, was, an interesting thing. There's the Thanksgiving stat that we all know, that you've got a 75% chance of qualifying if you're in on Thanksgiving. At the end of each of the last 2 seasons in the Western Conference, no team with a positive goal differential missed the playoffs.
There you go.
So there are only 8 teams this year in the Western Conference who do have a positive goal differential at this point, and the Utah Mammoth are one. They're a +4, which I think makes them fifth overall in the conference on goal differential. Yeah,
that 7-0 win really helps with that.
It really helps with that. Yes, and you know what else should help with that is winning in the next 2 games by more than 1 goal.
Yes,
which should be completely doable if you plan on being a playoff team.
Yes, I would have to agree. And these 2 games are back to back, so handling the Canucks tonight would go a long way, and taking down the Flames tomorrow, Saturday, December 6th. And to be fair here, this schedule for the month of December is pretty decent for the team. We got Vancouver tonight, Calgary Flames. Then Monday, the Kings come to SLC. Now, the Kings have been very good on the road, so that is a little scary there. But then the Panthers come in, still dealing with all of their injuries. And, I mean, they were just beaten by Nashville last night, 2-1. The Kraken at home. Then the team flies to Pittsburgh, takes on the Bruins Tuesday, December 16th. The Red Wings host New Jersey, host Winnipeg, then go to Colorado December 23rd, host the Predators on the 29th. That feels like a very good month, a very good taking the left path towards the playoffs in our little crossroad here to secure some wins, pad some ground, beef up that goal differential.
Yeah, especially, like Los Angeles, that seems like a tough one. They're on the road. They're a team in a playoff position. In the Pacific, they're in 3rd place currently. They've got 31 points, a couple points more than Utah with a game in hand. But, gosh, I don't know if I really believe in that team. There's rumors today that they may be thinking about replacing Jim Hiller with Pete DeBoer, despite their record, because they've just been kind of treading water as their stars get older and older. Guys like Kopitar and Doughty. The next wave, I'm not super sold on. And this is a team who does have those 31 points, but it's on the strength of 7 overtime losses. They have just 12 wins, and they have a -5 goal differential. So I don't know if they're a true credible contending threat or if they're a little bit of a paper tiger. I think that if you can sharpen your claws against the Canucks and the Flames, get some rest, and get some home cooking and be prepared for the LA Kings, that should be another one that you can win, and one that you should win if you're going to be a playoff team.
I would agree. So, yeah, going to be an interesting month. And that kind of ties in nicely with the idea of there being that 2 out of 3 hot seat level. But before we get into that, the holidays are coming up. And what better way to show your loved one and support your loved ones than grabbing some awesome Clean Hits hockey merch? Get some fun shirts about your favorite team, like that Logan Cooley Donor Nation approved shirt, our elite Mikhail Sergachev, the Clayton Keller Mr. Versatility shirt, or one of our famous Club Mammoth, and of course the infamous Dylan Gunther Costco shirt. You can get any of our t-shirt designs at shop.cleanhitshockey.com. Again, that's shop.cleanhitshockey.com. And of course, we have the Utah Nice as Hell shirt, where $5 of every shirt sold will go to the Utah Food Bank. So you can support a great cause on top of that. And while you're at it, give us a like and subscribe on all of the socials so you can keep up with everything Clean Hits. And of course, you can join us in our Discord at discord.cleanhitshockey.com. All right, back to business. 2 out of 3 on the hot seat. I think if that Anaheim game went the other way, this would have gotten 2 of 3. Sitting on the middle part of your seatbelt in the middle of an Arizona summer where you park your car outside level hot. Ow. I think if this team were to lose one of these games, not in overtime, it would potentially get back to that. I think the margin of error is tiny right now. And
I totally agree. Yeah. Especially because of the way that, Bill Armstrong reportedly came down and addressed the team ahead of the game in Anaheim. So when the GM's doing a skip level, that's good teamwork. It's probably him supporting his coach. If you're the coach, you're glad that the GM came and rallied the troops and that you got to win. But at the same time, the GM probably shouldn't need to come down and address the team, right? So that's a little bit of a double-sided kind of result there for the coach. Does that inspire confidence or not? Does that relieve pressure or not? And I think the way that is viewed, to your point, Brad, will largely depend on how sustainable that success against Anaheim is, especially looking at 2 very weak opponents who are just counting the days until they can trade off everyone over 28 years old on the roster. They're all working the phone lines, trying to get picks and prospects and young players, and they're thinking all about Gavin McKenna and about Keaton Verhoff and Ivar Stenberg. They're not thinking about the playoffs at all. And on a management side, of course, the players are going to play their hardest, but they see the writings on the wall. They're seeing the rumors about themselves. These are distracted teams. Their veteran leadership core are in the rumor mill constantly on both sides. There are not too many teams in the league totally out of it like these 2 are. So the national media is just feasting on the available veterans on both squads, which is going to be a huge distraction for them. Utah coming into town needs to take care of business. And I think you're right. I think the goodwill and good feelings and the reduction in the temperature of Bears' seat gets reversed pretty damn quick if they come in and lose 2-0 to the Vancouver Canucks tonight.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And, we don't want to spend a whole nother episode talking about this. So check out some of our previous episodes where we go a little bit more in detail and potential other coaches that would be a decent fit. With DeBoer rumors going to LA now, that list starts to get thinner. And really, the one thing I would want to avoid here is getting another young, inexperienced NHL coach. If they are going to make a change, especially with, I'm sure, some of the relationships Bear has with some of these players, I want it to be a premium coach, a coach that has experience taking teams to the playoffs and beyond. One of the big names, this has to be big game hunting here. I don't think you can just replace a younger coach in this league, one of the most tenured coach currently, right? And just replace him with anyone. It's up there, yeah. So I want them to be really choosy if they have to make this decision. And if DeBoer goes to LA for some reason, that's one of the kind of 2 names that I would be all right with switching Andre out for. And if the other one isn't willing to come, then I don't think you make that move. But again, let's see how these first couple games go. Check out our other episodes over the past couple weeks if you want to hear more coach speak and coach discussion. couple other interesting pieces here. We did see some roster movement. Daniil But, Cheeks, best
Buttercup.
nickname in hockey, Buttercup. The list goes on. Bootski making his NHL debut.
For Boo.
And I thought he looked pretty good. Did not get on the score sheet, but was making an impact. And boy, oh boy, is he massive. And he's only, what, 20? Mm-hmm. Holy cow. I mean, it doesn't look natural. And I have watched clips of him in Tucson. I've watched clips of him in the KHL. And I don't know, for some reason he didn't really stand out quite the way he did in this NHL game. Maybe it was because I figured he would not look as massive with other larger players, but geez, that is a big boot.
Yeah, and he moves. He
moves.
Can really move at his size, and his hands are excellent at his size too. Really good stuff. Yep. Yeah, I didn't watch him a whole lot in the KHL, at least not full games, but I watched most of the NHL games he played. I watched all of his NHL playoff games, and I watched probably half the games he's played in Tucson. I did go see one in person, the one in which he scored a hat trick, including the overtime winner. And let me tell you, he looked pretty damn big down there in the TCC, especially on 3-on-3 overtime when he's flying around out there, sudden death, towering over everyone, and just rockets one in for the sudden death winner. He looked about 10 feet tall at that point, for sure. So this is a kid with a ton of upside, both sides of the puck. I saw a really complimentary quote from Ian Cole, who may be the genesis of the Cheeks nickname. At least that's how the fans became aware of the Cheeks nickname. Talking about Bootski's game and all that he brings to the table on both sides of the puck. And with size and skill. So I anticipate this is going to be a very complete player once he finishes kind of rounding into form, a two-way threat, a complete offensive player with lots of physical upside to add some power elements to his game. If you watch his goals in Tucson, I mean, if you want to just go to the Tucson Roadrunners X page and scroll over to video on their media tab and scroll down, you'll see lots of boot goal highlights there. And what you'll notice is most of them come in the slot, in the low slot. He likes to drive the middle. You'll notice that if he's assisting on goals, so you'll see a little apple emoji and then boot. Keep a close eye on those because he's really liking to fling that puck right into high danger areas, right into the low slot. That's how goals get scored in the NHL, in the dirty areas. And if you're going to the dirty area, Bootski's going to find you there. If you're not going there, he probably is. So definitely something to keep an eye on here in Western Canada is how sustainable and how big of an impact Boot can make.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and hopefully is the spark this team needs. I hope he can kind of stay adjusted to the NHL. Sometimes these larger players can struggle with the penalties, and that leads us directly to the other player who was called up, as Simashev was brought down to the AHL, partially for CBA purposes, although I'm sure it was partially just to get some fresh feet. We have some defensemen that deserve some NHL games, like Mr. Maverick Lamera. Make sure you check out our interview with him. In fact, we have an interview playlist that has all of the interviews we've ever done. We have had so many players on, like Spicy Tuna, who got on the scoreboard as well. Jack McBain, Cole Baudouin was a good one. And hopefully we're going to have some very, very cool interviews coming up. But Maverick Lamoureux, when he had his cup of coffee in the NHL last year, I would say overall was very promising. But the big thing, no pun intended or pun intended here, was the penalties he was taking. And I like to call these big guy penalties, where you are a big guy, a big BFD, and the refs kind of notice you more. They kind of notice when sticks get caught on you more. They kind of notice when you land a hit and it sends somebody flying a little bit more. Your stick can kind of get in the way a little bit more with that long reach. And Maverick Lamoureux kind of struggled with this, taking a healthy amount of penalties in his first stint. I hope the same doesn't happen for Daniil But, but there will be that adjustment period, figuring out the speed, figuring out other vet players' little tricks to get you to make those little penalties. But
Well, if
MavLam's
it's any
first,
consolation, Daniil But in the AHL this season in 19 games only has 8 PIMs. So he's
yeah,
managed to stay out of the box in Tucson, which is a good thing. Maverick Lamoureux last season in 42 games, he had 48 PIMs. Not so good, especially because only 5 of those were a fighting major against Joseph. Mav has some PIMs down in Tucson this year for sure, but he's been dropping the gloves a bit more regularly, which I think is what led to him having, well, it's only 19 and 19, so not bad for a dude with a couple of scraps this year. I watched him beat the wheels off of Ville Ottavainen, which is no small task. Ottavainen, I think, is like 6'6", and MavLam handled him well. It was one of quite a few fights that night against Coachella Valley, but MavLam definitely got the better of that fight. So I think you're seeing a little bit more discipline from MavLam in terms of penalties down in Tucson. Hopefully we'll see the same in the NHL. And But has not struggled with discipline so far in the AHL. So to your point, hopefully that carries over to the NHL. You'll notice that his KHL stats, he has very low PIMs as well. He wasn't getting a lot of ice time in the KHL. So that's part of the issue there. But he hasn't really had large penalty minute totals in really any season at any level. So hopefully he continues his disciplined play in the NHL, despite the fact that his large frame is going to have the eyes of all the zebras right on him.
Absolutely. And again, that's kind of the nice flexibility that this team has right now, where they can afford to have him up. Let him try it out. Let him sniff it out. Let him kind of figure out what he can and can't get away with, just like we did with MavLam last year. Hopefully Maverick Lamoureux can kind of stick around a little bit longer now, because I thought he had a really solid game against Anaheim. Just a real kind of clean, if you will, quiet game. Had an assist as well, but didn't really kind of just stand out as much as he did in previous games last year when he got his cup of coffee in the NHL. I thought the pairing
hard to be a +4 in an NHL game, though. That's pretty impressive to be a +4 in a single game. That's pretty good, and it looked like he had some really good stops right in front of the net, including one at the goal line there. And stops in front of the net have been an issue for this team big time. So having a guy who makes that his bread and butter could be really helpful. And to your point that you were making before I interrupted you, he looked good with Ian Cole, right, Brad?
Yes, he did. So I'm excited to see if that pairing sticks. Hopefully it does. I don't see why we would mix anything up in this roster, which leads to the question. There was a player who did not make the cut against the Ducks, and that is Mr. Barrett Hayton, who got to have some extra hot dogs in the press box along with Brandon Tahanov. And coming off that game, I don't see any reason why you would put either back in the lineup quite yet. We have a back-to-back. Have them sit out today. Bring them right in against the Flames to have a little bit of more fresh feet. But I felt like the mix of the lines felt really nice against Anaheim. And Schmaltz got to play top center. Not something I love long-term, but giving him that opportunity right now when the team kind of needs that little bit of a spark. I thought JJ Peterka fit like a glove up there on that top line. And then we have the all kiddo line of Daniil But, Logan Cooley, and Dylan Guenther, who looked pretty solid. I could tell the 5-on-5 ice time was cut a little bit, and you can see that in Daniil But's ice time of only 11 minutes and 40 seconds compared to both Gunther and Cooley, who had about 15 minutes. But But even, I think this is 2 games where we can afford to have a little bit of an adjustment period, a little bit of time to tinker with the roster and test some things out before this next larger stretch games, which the opponent quality level will slowly rise.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, with Hayton and Tanev, Tanev has 1 point this season.
I know.
It's okay. It's okay. We can let him sit for a while. And I mean, even Barrett Hayton, right? Like, notoriously slow starter. This is pretty ridiculous. Michael Carcone has twice as many points.
I am.
Michael Carcone has 10. Barrett Hayton has 5. It's okay.
Yep.
He can sit.
Yep.
We'll run with the guys who are bringing energy and effort and some production against these 2 teams and see what we can generate. I think the other guys have earned the seat that they've taken in the press box, and they'll need to wait until circumstances justify them coming back into the lineup. But
yep.
I wouldn't be in any rush to make any changes.
Maybe that LA game, at least getting Hayton back in just for kind of battling their center depth would make a lot of sense to me. But right now, I really don't see a reason to bring in Tanev. This is a player that came out hot, looked like he came in just as advertised, and since maybe those first 2 weeks has not been very turbo in my opinion. But
yep. So, tinkering with the actual lineup, in terms of who's in and who's out, I don't really see it. But in terms of like lines and power play configurations, I'd really like to see JJ Peterka get more time on the power play, maybe more time than somebody like Nick Schmaltz, who's gone absolutely ice cold. JJ Peterka's got 21 points in 28 games. 20 of those are even strength. I mean, what would his scoring rate look like if he was on the first power play unit? Him and Keller.
Well, I got good news for you.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, because JJP was on that first power play, and according to Daily Faceoff, it's still on that first unit, which is Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, JJP, Dylan Gunther, and Mikhail Sergachev. Second power play unit listed on Daily Faceoff is Daniil But, Nick Schmaltz, Lawson Krause, Carcone, and Sean Durzi. Both of those units look very good on paper, and hopefully that is exactly what this team needs to kind of spark the power play and start to crawl its way out of the very bottom of the power play percentage across the league.
If they plan on making the playoffs, they'll need to.
Yes. They will. They absolutely
and the good news
will.
is
I'd like
very nearly the same personnel with the same coaching staff was able to have a top 10 power play last season.
Yep.
So they should be able to get this thing back on track. I think you need more from Mikhail Sergachev.
Yes.
You need more from Keller and Schmaltz. I think, Cooley and Peterka are heating up at just the right time. You'd like to see some more consistency from Gunther.
Yes.
But I think it's gonna turn around. Durzi's back. Thank goodness for that. I think this power play is going to start to wake up here. It better, but I think it will.
Yeah, I agree. If you're watching, leave a comment about maybe trying to figure out over the last 20 years, let's say, has there been an NHL team that has, let's not do 20, let's do 10 to 15. Has there been an NHL team that has had a bottom 10 power play unit that has made the playoffs? I'd be curious. So I'm going to have you guys do the research for me. So next order of business before we get into prospect and world junior talk, because that's how we'll close the show today. David Pagnotta of The Sheet came out today and said that GMBA has been given the green light to add someone significant. And between the coaching rumors and kind of the statement that Frank Saravalli believes that it is playoffs or busts for this team. That is a kind of layup idea that, yeah, then the team would obviously want to add a big piece. But something we've been kind of talking about, I don't think there's much need on the blue line. I think that is all pretty much locked up. I don't think there's too much tinkering you could do. I think this means it's got to be a center, right? Because even on
Yeah,
wing, it's a similar idea of at what point, if you try to add another winger, especially that has term, you're just going to start blocking the boots and the Tiges and our own reinforcements from within that could be making the squad next year.
yeah. I think with the blue line, I mean, you have Simishev in the AHL already. I think you probably just hope that Sergachev starts giving you a little bit more this season, starts looking a little bit more like the guy from last season. You hope that Sean Dursey kind of shakes off the rust and rounds into form. John Marino has been really good and had a couple of less than stellar moments. So maybe calibrating him a little bit. Schmidt's been phenomenal. Cole has been great, especially of late. Lamoureux, high hopes there. So I think you're right. I think the blue line is probably pretty well set. Wing, yeah, I would agree. Like, you don't really want to block cheeks. Unless
real quick. It's got to be because he has rosy red cheeks, right? What else would the nickname come from? I'm just trying to think.
No, obviously. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Okay. I'm glad we're not making any jokes related to the function of applause.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, let's definitely not do that. So I think, the one thing there is to maybe Schmaltz moves out in the deal for a winger. But even then, like, what are the odds that you're going to significantly upgrade Schmaltz? And even with Schmaltz, he's probably not really part of your long-term plans, but you have Tisha Ginla, Daniil But, exciting young wingers coming up. You've already got Gunther and Keller and Peterka on the roster. It starts to get a little bit crowded on the wing, especially in the top six, pretty quick. So you could maybe upgrade Schmaltz, but I think to your point, with Barrett Hayton being a health bomb, and it's December and he hasn't started the season yet. He just hasn't shown up yet at all. I don't know. He's an RFA. You really interested in bringing him back? I don't really know at this point. So
you need center depth, though.
Yeah, and you've got Logan Cooley, who's young, Jack McBain, who's a sometime center, who's had his own inconsistency, and then Kevin Stenlund, who's like firmly a 4C. I mean, they can keep running Schmaltz at center, I guess, but I think center is, to your point, the clearer area of need, apart from maybe goaltending, which is going to be just very hard to address in a clear way this season. I mean, you're not going to get an obvious upgrade on Vejmelka right now. They just don't have those available. There isn't one that you can get. So you could get some guys who might maybe break through at some point this season or next season or whatever, but it's not going to be like a clear upgrade. Even clearly upgrading Vanacek is going to be kind of difficult currently. So I think in terms of areas of need, center and goaltending is probably where you would focus. And then in terms of the actual likelihood of being able to address, it's got to be center. So all of that to say, yes, I agree. Probably center, Brad. Yeah.
Yep. And luckily, this seems to be one of the few positions, shockingly even, that there could be some decent pieces available. And I know we've talked about this for hours at length on some previous episodes, but I still have Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames circled, Ryan O'Reilly of the Nashville Predators circled as kind of those big game hunting pieces. Braden Shen of St. Louis Blues plays center. That would be probably, I mean, geez, at this point, I think when we talked about this 2 weeks ago, we were saying, is he that big of an upgrade over Hayton? And unfortunately, right now, it would feel like it quite an upgrade over him. All of these guys would be nice bridges for Desnoyers and Cole Baudouin as they come to the roster and make their way into the NHL as well. Kadri's contract is a little bit long, but I think he can figure that out, especially with the way this team's ELCs will begin to stack. So there's some interesting names out there, and I would say, I think a fan's perception of a significant move is a little bit different than a GM's perception. I would say a Braden Shen is a significant move to NHL GMs. Maybe not fans where they're like, well, the guy doesn't put up 80 points, but that I would consider that any top 6 piece is a significant move in this league.
I would agree with that. I would classify Braden Shen as a big piece. I think that David Pagnotta certainly would, who definitely wants things to have a dramatic appeal. So I think he would certainly consider Braden Shen a big piece too. So I'd be happy to add that kind of veteran leadership. I mean, look at the roller coaster this team has been on. And that's with all these cup winners and all these vets on the squad. And still you get these like Jekyll and Hyde performances, day to day, week to week, month to month. So any additional stability they can bring in with a cup champ and captain and hard-nosed player who can play any position up front on any line up front in Braden Shen, I think would be a hell of a lot of glue to help bind this crazy furball of a team together and hopefully solidify our trajectory toward the playoffs. So I'd be fully supportive of that.
Yep. Any other names that you want to toss into the trade discussion pit of despair?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about most of them. There's Elias Pettersson. I don't think probably they're going to do that in the middle of the season with him, especially not with what's going on personally with him. So
I just don't know how it fits long term on this team. Cap wise, contract. I mean, I actually you would be clearing out some of these guys, these prospects to obtain him.
Yeah, then you've got Cooley, EP40, and then you've got Desnoyers and you've got Baudouin and you've got McBain. So probably does make a decent amount of sense. It's not a lot of size, that's for sure, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we got now. So you gotta weigh that. And I think that it's easy for us to be as patient as we want to be, or say, oh, he's not the exact right fit. He doesn't look like the kind of guy physically that I'd want to be like a top performing top 6 center for us. But those players do not come available very often. So like if you get an opportunity to add a talent like that, I'm not sure that like an actual NHL GM is going to break out the scale and be like, well, if he was 12 pounds heavier, we'd probably add him, but at his weight, we're not interested. I think that's maybe us as fans being a little bit too greedy without understanding, the next best option is not so great. So Pettersson, but probably not happening in season anyway. So I'd probably continue to look at those bridge players who are a little bit older, who won't be blocking the way of our bright young stars or eating up too much cap space as ELCs start to expire.
Yep, agreed. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the rumor mill develops. We will keep our eyes and ears out and hopefully get some tidbits here. Last order of business, World Junior coming up, favorite time of the year. And Mammoth may be loading up Team Canada. The rumored potential projected lineup had Desnoyers, Cole Baudouin, Tija Ginla. Who am I missing?
Yeah, that. Those would be the three if they make it. So there's a lot of like projected rosters going out there, but I think this is a really unique World Juniors, especially for Team Canada, because Michael Misa has only played 6 or 7 NHL games at this point. He's been injured. He just got reassigned to the minors, which is hilarious because it's Teddy Bear Toss Night, and he famously got suspended last season on Teddy Bear Toss Night. So he does have the opportunity to do the funniest possible thing. In a Teddy Bear Toss game on as a road player, he started firing teddy bears back over the glass because the other team scored. Pretty funny stuff. Gotta love it, and I sure hope he does that again in the minors. And they will be facing, by the way, the Tucson Roadrunners in that game.
Ooh.
So let's see if Dmitry Simishev maybe wants to give Michael Misa a run for his money. So definitely buy Flow Hockey and tune in to the Roadrunners as they face off against Michael Misa. But if San Jose elects to release him to Team Canada, that's another center spot taken up. Probably he'll play center. I don't know. Then you've got to imagine that with Braden Coots being returned to the WHL from the Vancouver Canucks and having those NHL games, playing for a big Canadian team, a lot of pizzazz around that name right now, a lot of momentum and buzz. You might elect to bring Braden Coots, who's a center. Ben Kindle, I don't know if the Penguins are going to release him or not, or if they're going to keep him on the squad.
I don't think they can. I mean, he's been so good for them, and I mean, what does that say to Crosby and Malkin if you send down your great young player?
So that's good news, probably for Desnoyers and Tige and Cole Baudouin. Then there's Berkeley Catton in Seattle. Does Berkeley Catton go down? I don't know.
Another one where, I don't know if I don't believe he has had the same impact that Kendall has had for the Penguins, but Seattle's spinning their wheels, trying to figure out if they should be going for the playoffs or not. Catton has 5 assists in 20 games played. Maybe he gets sent down.
Yeah. And if Catton goes down, that's going to add to the squeeze, right? Because and then they're probably going to bring Jake O'Brien. I think he's the leading scorer in the OHL, if not the entire CHL. So there's another center. Meanwhile, we've got Caleb Desnoyers. He's missed so much time with injury. The puck luck hasn't been there. I watched another Moncton game last night. He did have 4 points in that game. So he's starting to break out, but Canada's probably already made up their mind. And his production wasn't that high. I think he had 13 points in 13 games or something like that previous to last night, where he put up a 4 spot. The thing with Desnoyers, though, is you don't necessarily need him to be the offensive catalyst because his complete 2-way overall game is so freaking strong. He's probably the smartest, best defensive center that they're considering.
And that's an issue that Team Canada has gotten themselves into before, not picking the smart picks here and just loading up with talent at times. And they seem to overcorrect a lot. This roster on paper has looked like a good decision. Maybe I'm being a little biased here, but I mean, I feel like one of Misa I just don't know if Misa will get sent down.
Yeah, he will. I mean, maybe not. Maybe they want to leave him with the Barracuda.
Yeah.
And get him seasoned up with the Cuda. But I don't know, man. He got snubbed last year. He's one of the most egregious snubs in World Juniors history. Yeah. I mean, in the last 10 years, I can think of maybe 1 or 2 more egregious snubs. Dude went 2nd overall, was leading the freaking CHL in points, putting up like historic numbers. He's an exceptional status player. He represented Canada internationally before, and they left him off the squad. It was nuts. And now he is a year older. Are they going to do it again? Well, I guess it wouldn't be Canada. I guess it would be San Jose. Now, how about this? If you're Michael Misa, what do you want? Do you want to stay in the Barracuda where you're 1 phone call away from the NHL? Or do you want to go down and revenge tour for for your big snub last year at the World Juniors. Kid like him's probably been dreaming about World Junior gold for a long time. That dream seemed like a reality pretty recently, and he didn't get a crack at it. So I don't know. I don't know if you leave it up to the kid, maybe.
That's interesting. When do they have to make the decision by?
Well, that's an interesting thing. The rumor is they're going to drop roster on Monday. Canada is not holding a camp this year. They're just going to announce the roster. But I'm guessing they're going to announce the roster with, exactly. But I'm guessing they're going to announce the roster with a few buffers on there. I think they'll release a list of players that's bigger than the list they're allowed to take. And my guess is that's going to be because NHL teams are going to want to see where they're at. I mean, if Berkeley Catton gets announced to the World Juniors roster on Monday, and then he scores 3 goals next week for the Seattle Kraken, they ain't letting him go.
No.
So Seattle's not going to want to make a decision on December 8th about what they're going to do Christmas Eve. So I think probably you'll see those NHL names who at least have a chance of getting released on the roster, and then you're going to see additional names. So they're not going to let camp decide who gets cut. I think they're going to let the NHL decide who gets cut, those NHL teams. So I would fully expect that Desnoyers, Iginla, and Baudouin will be on that list that comes out on Monday. I don't necessarily know that means that they're actually going to go or play if they do. I think the most likely player of that bunch to make it is Iginla.
Agreed.
Just because there's less known about the center situation, and there are more wings. Tej will play either one, left or right. I think Tej is probably the biggest lock to go. There's the name recognition. I think Cole Baudouin's history with Team Canada, his utility as a guy who can play all 3 positions, and play up and down the lineup. They're in search of size that can actually play. I think Baudouin's probably the next most likely. And then, funny enough, the highest draft pick of the bunch, Caleb Desnoyers, who's inarguably like the best prospect of the 3. Well, maybe not inarguably, but arguably the best prospect of the 3. Is probably in the most jeopardy. And I don't think that's because of him. I think that's because missing time due to injury. And I think that's because of the level of competition nipping at his heels in those terms of those NHL players who Team Canada may prefer at center.
Yeah, I would have it that way too. I feel like Tej is probably a lock at this point, even if Misa, Catton, and I just can't see Kendall coming back. But even if 2 spots get picked up, I don't foresee Tej being one that gets dropped out. Like you said, I think Desnoyers probably does first, especially because he has the smallest amount of time from being back from injury. And then maybe Baudouin. I would need to look at that entire roster to see what other players potentially could get dropped out too.
Bro, Gavin McKenna will be there on the wing. Porter Martone will be there on the wing.
Yeah.
And then you look at the blue line. Is Perek going? Maybe. Is Sam Dickinson going? Maybe. You've got Keaton Verhoff. You've got Jackson Smith. You've got buddy.
Oh, you know what? I mean, Greentree.
Yeah, Liam Greentree. I mean, he's like a 50 goal scorer in the OHL. How many goals has he had recently? He's not my favorite. He's not the best skater in the world. He's maybe not the best 2-way player in the world, but man.
What about Luchenko?
I can see them wanting to bring Luchenko too. I don't know, man. If
it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting.
That team is so loaded.
Yeah, Greentree, by the way, did have 49 goals in 64 games last season, but then in the playoffs, he had 14 goals in 11 games, bro. So in 75 games, he had 63 goals last season in the OHL, and he's the captain of the Windsor Spitfires, so I believe are in first place.
This is going to be a really fun World Juniors. I hate.
Will it, or will Canada just?
I mean, it feels like
win every game. Force it.
Yeah.
And also, we didn't even mention Jake O'Brien.
I know.
Who? Yeah, he's leading the OHL in scoring. He might be leading the entire CHL in scoring. He's got 45 points in 25 games, dude.
Man. Oi. That is a wild lineup. And I was just looking at the projected Team USA one, and oi. It's maybe more of a year to just sit back and enjoy watching our prospects rather than
Get too patriotic about it. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think
maybe we wear our Team Slovak or not Slovakia.
yeah, that's what we got. Yeah, we got
that is what we got.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I think Canada, and I mean Kashawn Aitchison will be there.
Yep.
What are you gonna do?
I know.
What are you gonna do against that? It's gonna be an absolute nightmare. And their big downfall lately has been goaltending, and they've got some good options there too. So I think forget about it. It's gonna be a great tournament to see who gets silver.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and regardless, if you have never watched the World Junior, it's something else. It is some of the best hockey you can watch all season long. It's exciting. It's the skill shines, the passion shines from these kids, and it's a great way to be able to kind of watch some of the Utah Mammoth prospects, especially this year. If we have 3 prospects on Team Canada, and it sounds like Peshnika should be on Team
Czechia. Yeah, he'll be on Czechia. I would just make a strong recommendation to all Mammoth fans to tune into the World Junior Championships. It is not nearly as popular in the United States as it ought to be. It's must-see TV. It's my favorite tournament of the season for any league at any level. The emotions, the patriotism, the blood and guts, the momentum swings, the storylines of the best under 20 players on earth, just duking it out with every ounce of passion and effort that they have. It's incredible. It's such a pure hockey experience. So if you are a hockey fan, you're doing yourself a great disservice if you don't watch the World Juniors. It's the best tournament of the year.
Yep, it's the Winter Olympics every single year, just in a different age group. Essentially, it honestly doesn't feel that far off from watching the Winter Olympics, though. Which, by the way, I cannot wait for that either. Hopefully, they get the rink figured out. But you only get that once every 4 years, and we haven't really had one since 2010. So in this case, once every 15 years. So World Juniors every single year, right after Christmas. It's like a holiday tradition. There's something that, ties in with the holidays too. And it's just the best.
It's the best. And all the brightest and best future stars of the NHL tend to be there. Yep. So you'll be able to say you saw them first when someday they're, captaining a Stanley Cup team or leading the NHL in scoring. You'll have been watching them since they were teenagers.
Yep. Like Barrett Hayton with a shoulder dislocated and scoring a beautiful goal to help his team win the gold. And
yeah. And I mean, what an emotional moment for him, though. He couldn't even raise his arm in celebration. Golden goal gets scored, and he's got one hand up, and the other arm is dislocated. Dylan Gunther scored the golden goal for Canada. It's truly so much fun. So I could not advocate enough that people take the time to watch the World Juniors this year.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's all I got. That was a nice full episode. As Bone Thugs and Harmony say, see you at the crossroads, and hopefully the Mammoth come out going the right path this time around. And big 2 games here, big month of December. To me, this feels like the get it right month. I think, obviously, after this month, we will have a better idea of which direction this team is going and if it can actually make that playoff push. Let's flush November away and move forward. Anything else, Trent?
That's all I got.
All right, Tusk up. Ciao, everybody.
We're running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change.